Hello, everyone, and welcome to the July 2nd Ask Us Anything Hangout. Just preliminarily, this is going to be the first show in a new podcast series. So you may be here live to ask your questions. You may be watching this on the site. You could be consuming this in any number of ways. But we are making a podcast out of this, and so probably a lot of you are listening there. So hello.
Hello. And previously, we've done these Ask Us Anythings a little bit sporadically, and they're always fun to do, but then they kind of just get lost. They go on YouTube. You have to search for them. This is a much smarter way to do it. We are converting quite a few of our things into the podcast format because it's really easy. The subscriptions are really easy, and so now this will just be. We'll still do them once a month, and I think by having them a podcast, it kind of it encourages us to be more consistent, I think. So we'll for sure be doing them once a month, and they'll be easy to find and all that. So anyway, welcome to number one.
So you heard it here. This is number one. I'm trying to resist making a joke about number two.
I was too, which is really disappointing.
Really disappointing for show number one. All right, so did you want to talk just before we began also about the other stuff? Why you may have noticed people who've been going to the Sterling and Stone site, it has, and for those of you who are new, sterlingandstone.net is our site, and it's been a little slow lately.
It's been a ghost town mostly.
But this time there's a purpose. Like the last time there's not a purpose. This time there is.
Right. So we launched, about 9-10 months ago, and we launched really strong. We had a lot of content coming out at the beginning, and right now it's a ghost town. We haven't published anything except new podcast episodes for a while. The reason for that is because we're redesigning the site. And it's kind of it's a mess. We had a theme that was being designed for us that was supposed to be the ultimate author's theme, and that didn't really work out. So we're having another theme designed, which is already finished, and we're in the process of not only changing everything around, but really restructuring the way the site works and how community focused it can be. And our primary engine will be a podcast network, which we've kind of hinted at a little bit. We haven't talked in detail about it yet, but we are launching a podcast network. So a lot of the things that we do, like the Fiction Unboxed type of DVD extras that we talk about, where Dave and I need to schedule one for Yesterday's Gone, for example, where we talk about the entire series now that it's done. Instead of that getting lost, it would be a podcast. Our SPPs are going to get rebooted. We're rebooting the Better Off Undead show as worst show ever. And we have quite a few shows coming out, including The Smarter Artist, later this year, the Indie Fiction Podcast. And
some really big stuff going on with those that we can't really go into yet, but let's just say that they're all humming very, very nicely, and we have very big plans for those, and they're going to be very pro. In case you didn't hear this, we hired an audio producer named Audra, and she has 20 years in radio. She's a real pro. She's going to really clean us up.
She's fantastic. Yeah.
She's already speaking way above our heads. It's great.
Yeah, and for an example, I used to do the Authorpreneur's Almanac every Sunday, and I've totally stopped doing that. And it's because it's being converted to a podcast. It's now just going to be a weekly podcast. It'll come out on Mondays. There's several already recorded. We're just trying to up the quality in everything that we do and make it more community focused. And so there's been a lot of restructuring that needs to happen on the site, and we just feel like throwing content on there right now, it's not a smart use of our time. Really, like we're just all kind of drowning in trying to get a lot of prep work done. I'm going on vacation soon, and I'm sweating whether I'm going to get the beam polish done before I leave. And there's so many things to kind of sweep the floor with before
you've got time on the beam polish.
So anyway, welcome to Ask Us Anything.
But we have a really great community, and we want to make sure that you guys all get the best stuff in the most consumable way. And I think that you're already podcast listeners if you listen to the Self-Publishing Podcast. You're probably a podcast listener if you're listening to this, other than you live folks. And so it should just be more stuff that you can add to your iPod or your device, your phone.
Yeah, we're trying to give the site an easy button. From everything from being able to actually sell our stories direct on the site, to just easy and accessible is really what we want. But it's a lot of work, and so we're a little bit behind on the actual community aspects of the content, other than doing the shows. But even then, because we're preparing for vacations, we've been doing a couple shows per week to bank the content, in addition to shows for the new shows that haven't come out yet. So there's just been a lot behind the scenes that we haven't really pulled back the curtain on, but it's all really, really exciting. You'll love it.
So we'll begin with questions. I would like to announce that if this is your first Ask Us Anything or Ask Us Anything hangout, I do have my White Russian today. So just so everybody's clear on that. The only one participating in tradition here, although Dave is always drinking Diet Coke, so he rolls, but Sean is given up on bringing wine to Ask Us Anything.
No. I'm going to have wine or a margarita next time for August, I promise. But I didn't have any tequila and no wine. So
are you listening, kids? When somebody pressures you into drinking, you promise you'll do it next time. Just kidding. All right, so where do we want to begin? Do we want to begin with YouTube questions?
Yeah,
I got quite a few.
YouTube, because it's live. I like.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Marketing Artfully asks, or says, I love it that you guys are all about forward motion. What one thing have you done marketing-wise do you think has had the most impact on your book sales? And also with your, quote, this year theme of optimize, what was the most difference in your optimization, and how are you tracking your changes?
The optimization, the number one thing was covers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. We're really behind in getting product descriptions done.
It's because each one takes 17 years, and I have to do it personally.
Right, and so they're the perfect complement to the covers, because the cover looks great. The cover kind of earns you enough attention to get a potential reader to the product description, and that kind of lifts the weight the rest of the way. And we'll get there, but our covers, I think we've done a really fantastic job. We're almost done. We're almost caught up. I think within another 2 months we'll have pretty much everything done, which is neat, which is really, really cool. But yeah, that's made a really big difference, and I think going wide instead of staying with Amazon has probably been the number one marketing thing that we've done, because going into this year, pretty much all of our money was coming from Amazon, and that's just not the case anymore. So yay for that.
I would also add list building. We're really just kind of in the infancy on this, and we're going to do more and more of it. But we've had a really strong focus on building lists this year, because if you have a big enough list, you don't need BookBub. You just announce to your list. So that's the other thing that we're really working on optimizing.
Okay, 1 second. Stephen Manley says, I'm about to release a second book in my trilogy, 90,000 words in urban fantasy horror genre, spending 2015 as production year, then hitting marketing when the trio's done. Do you think this is a reasonable plan, and what marketing would you suggest I start with when the time comes, end of 2015-ish? Thanks for all you guys do.
I think that's absolutely the right strategy, to spend a year, producing and then market, because I think marketing when you have a book or two out, it's just hard. The market is really saturated. There's a lot of people like all of us doing what all of us are doing, and we're writing our books, we're putting them out there, and it's really easy to get lost. So I think that's really smart. I think if it's your very first book, we were just talking about this on a podcast we recorded yesterday about how effective free still is, and I think right now, if you're just starting out, I think free is probably still the best way to get attention with your very first book. Leading into the number 2 and number 3, that's probably where I would focus as much of my attention as I possibly could, getting that free one everywhere and just driving traffic to that.
I think one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of right now is it feels like there are tiers of, and that's TIERS, not TEARS. Those are all shed by Dave in our company. Tiers of where you are in your career. So one of the things that we talked about in the Is Free Still Effective podcast. So that'll hit the podcast audio feed in like a month. I mean, we're way ahead. But one of the things we mentioned in that was the idea that we're using free differently, and in some cases not in ways that we even said in Write, Publish, Repeat that we would suggest a lot of people do. So for instance, Invasion Book 1, we have 3 of those books out, and there's a 4th on pre-order. We thought it would be free by now, the first one, and we just didn't. And so it feels like, since that has enough momentum, that we're at kind of a tier with that one where we kind of don't need to. I mean, whereas I think that if you're brand new and you aren't getting attention, then that's your job, to get attention. And any way you can get it, don't worry about anything else. Just worry about getting the eyeballs.
Okay, Deborah Barton has 2 questions. One, have you ever published a book that did not go well? Yes, I think we all have.
Oh yeah,
you want to
that's
answer
part of
for
the
us, Dave?
process. Yeah.
Well, I mean, who hasn't?
Every single one of our lines has a book that we wish had done better. I think that's part of the process. I think assuming that every book you write is going to be awesome or a home run, that doesn't even work for the bestsellers. Like
I thought I was going to do it with my first book. I knew better. Don't get your hopes up. And of course, I did.
Yeah, you have to understand that it's a growing thing. I feel like right now, at both Romance Hands and the Inkwell, our writing has never been stronger. Our creative process has never been stronger. And I think those are the things you really want to focus on, because those are the things that are going to give, meat to your long-term, the health of your long-term career. Don't focus on, how well did this book do. But yeah, I think we all have our disappointments for sure. But if you're kind of failing forward and you're learning, your catalog is going to get better. You're going to get better. You're going to get sharper.
She also asks, as a new author, you're told over and over to build your list. I appreciate the necessity and understand the great benefit, but what is the best way to do this when you're starting from scratch?
Oh, well, I mean, first of all, you need, I don't know how nuts and bolts we want to get on this, but first of all, you obviously need to get a list provider and put up a landing page and all that. But once you have that, you need some sort of a list bribe. Nick Stevenson calls it a reader magnet. And just you can do a first book in free and have some sort of a magnet or a bribe to get people to join your list. I think the strongest way I've seen this, and I think we saw this first from Nick. It makes sense, but we had never exactly done it. Is a first book free and a second book as the offer. You can get the second book free, the sequel to that book in the series, if you sign up for the mailing list. And that is an extremely effective list builder if you have a series that people download for free and they like it, and you have that call to action in the front of the book. Failing that, just anywhere you can get that offer in front of people, get this if you join the list, and it's something that they want.
Ashley Shannon asks, is the Dream Engine world still open for anyone to write in? I found you guys after Fiction Unbox and couldn't join in the Kickstarter, but I would really like to write a story in that world.
Yeah, that world will always stay open. It's just kind of getting started. We've been really behind on getting the books done. We wrote Nightmare Factory and Ruby Room back to back last November and December, and it took us a long time to get through the edit and polish because we moved on to other projects. We started.
That became a roadblock for both of us. I remember when it was Sean's roadblock. Oh, if I can just get through Nightmare Factory and Ruby Room, and then like 6 months later, it landed on my desk, and right now I'm like, fuck, if I can just get through these.
Yeah, and Johnny's through Nightmare Factory now, and
I really liked it. It was nice to come back to it after that long.
Yeah, they're in really great shape, and we have beautiful covers for them. The Dream Engine got a new cover. Garrett is writing something called the Historium, which is like plugged for that world, that just kind of explains the world a little bit, which is really awesome. Dave just this week came up with a really cool idea for an Inkwell book in that world.
Yeah, I had a different one I was going to do in it, but I think I like this new one better.
And if you guys are intrigued, just wait until Dave doesn't want it, and then I'll scrap it up like the dog that follows after him.
Johnny's gonna grab the one I just passed up.
Right, I'm like that little dog, and he'd be like, "You're not gonna take that, are you?"
And it was awesome. We have a bunch. Calvin, although I think Carl is the name that he's going by on the books.
Carl Waters.
Carl Waters has one set in Biafra that's really cool, and an African dream engine. We've got Monica and Amy and Garrett all have books.
Amy's work inspired a lot of stuff in the second 2 books, especially the third.
So to answer the question, yes, absolutely, that world will always stay open. Like,
can I do one set in Florida?
Yes. Except Florida's underwater in the Dream Engine world.
No, it isn't.
It's not a dream engine.
Oh,
it's
maybe
a nightmare engine.
Well, we already have that one.
Yeah, well, I know.
So yeah,
the wet dream engine.
that will always stay open.
I want to be spoofed by porn sometime. That's how you know that you've made it.
Someday.
The Beam. That one doesn't need to be changed.
Better off undead. Yeah.
No, wow. Okay, so that brings to close this episode.
Carrie McQuaid says, "Hi guys, I loved episode 164, Trusting the Process. Really, it was one of my favorites. Please leave room in the new 2.0 for freeform discussions like that."
Oh, for
of
sure.
course. Yeah, I don't want to give anybody the impression that we're going to go like all quote, pro with a capital P. It's just going to be cleaned up at the beginning and the end. We're just going to try and be a little tighter, but it's the same show.
Yeah, it's basically, we want to keep it. One thing that we've been really conscious about is keeping it under 59 minutes. We want to respect people's time. Stay under an hour. That's what it's supposed to be. We'll stay under an hour. And that means less crap in the beginning. That opening part is one of my favorites. Like, I love that. I love talking about something cool. I love the just natural bonding. Like, we've had a hard week. It's Friday. We're kind of hanging out, 3 friends. And there should be a little bit of that bullshit together. But having said that, it shouldn't go on for half an hour. And that became the MO. We would just say very little for a half an hour, do the awkward ad read, and then have 30 minutes of actual SPP show. And I think this is much better. 15 minutes, get to the ad read, and then a big, nice 45 minutes, and then we're out.
Okay. Marketing Artfully asks, do you mind if I ask how many people are on your list now?
So before I answer that, I just want to say that when you said first Marketing Artfully, I was like, I know that person, and I know I like that person, and I couldn't place it. Well, that's Tara. Hi, Tara. So that's great. But anyway, I'll answer that for Realm and Sands, and it's about 5,000 right now, and growing quickly, which is nice. So our goal is for to hit 10,000 by the end of third quarter and 20,000 by the end of the year. And I think we can do that. I don't think that's going to be.
I think we'll hit that. Yeah, Realm and Sands right now is the leader. I think probably we have 20 if you added everything together, but the responsiveness on some of the lists just
and there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap. There's people that are on multiple lists, and the way that AWeber counts them is a bit of a tease. I love AWeber, but their counting system is designed to make them money. So, it's kind of to their benefit to show maximal numbers when, in fact, you may have 2/3 of that.
Yeah, right.
We have a related question. Kathy Burton asks, how can I get onto all of your lists? I seem to get only a few sporadically and would love to be more involved in your podcast, events, and cart writing. What is the URL so I can sign up?
Well, that's a really good question.
And I love that you asked it. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Despite the fact that we've really preached list building and the fact that Johnny and I very much came from that area, in different ways, but we both really understand the idea of emails and email marketing, and that was a large part of what we did before we, joined forces and became the Storytelling Justice League, right? But having said that,
no, not Justice League, X-Men, thank you. No
X-Men.
DC.
All right, sorry. Didn't mean to get your panties in a bunch. But we've actually done kind of a crappy job building our own lists.
Yeah, when I say crappy, and then I'll let you finish your thought, if 5,000 seemed like a lot, or if it seemed, whatever it seemed like, for Sean and I, especially coming out of that list building marketing stuff and having written together for 2.5, 3 years now maybe, it's kind of shit. Like, it's kind of terrible. Like, it should
Right,
be
it's a
20,000 by now,
It
for
should be
sure.
20,000, yeah, for sure. But that's okay because I think you have to put everything in order. And I'm really proud of the way Sterling and Stone as a company has prioritized. We got good at our systems. We got good at writing and telling stories, and that's the stuff that really truly matters. And yeah, the list building absolutely matters, but it doesn't matter as much as the story. And now, in our year of iteration and optimization, we're really doing a great job on list building, and we're just getting going with that. So we've got a lot of list building, actual specific list building campaigns. We've got smart autoresponders. We've got great segmentation and all of that stuff. It wouldn't have been smart to pay as much attention to it when we were still learning how to write together and craft our stories and get those out.
What we didn't actually answer the question about getting all the lists or whatever.
Oh, yeah. So when we're restructuring the site right now, that's one of the things that we're, putting our mind to. How do we make that easy for everybody? There is a massive Sterling and Stone list, and any list that you join, let's say you download Yesterday's Gone and you get on the Collective Inkwell list, there is an onboarding process. The best onboarding process right now is actually on the Realm and Sands list. There's a whole autoresponder sequence written out, and if you join that list, you get a lot of friendly emails. They go out once a week, and they kind of tell you a little bit of a story, and there's a couple of things that happen along the way. At one point, you're invited to the street team, and then you can go and be a part of the early advanced ARC readers, that kind of list. But after all of that, you're invited to just be on the general Sterling and Stone list, and you can decide to, hey, you know what, all of that sounds interesting. I don't think I just want to hear about Realm and Sands books. I want to hear about all of these books.
But you're
John
getting a
can figure that out.
sampler that way.
Yeah.
You don't get every single email that goes to Realm and Sands if you're on the Sterling and Stone list. You get one notice of it usually. Like, that's usually the way it works.
Can I get a checkbox that will unlist me from like updates on Space Shuttle or Redacted?
You can specifically exclude anything but Space Shuttle. Yes, Max Power will have to have his autoresponder someday.
Tara, again, big question. Well, she says, hi, Johnny. And then big question. You had tried to funnel everyone into Sterling and Stone and now seem to have stepped back to CI and our Realm and Sands. Have you reconsidered marketing to specific genres while you do this?
Yeah, there's a reason for that. So it actually came out of the autoresponder thing, and without going into too much detail, what we started to realize is we mapped out autoresponders. So if you're an SPP diehard, self-publishing podcast diehard, you may have remembered the fact that we were talking about building out this autoresponder sequence for 60 years, and it just kind of never got done, much like the website.
No, Haley would graduate before you got the last email in the sequence.
Right. So, but then we never implemented it, and then we were doing it again. And the reason is because when I started to implement it, it stopped making a lot of sense in terms of the way an actual reader, like a real person on the street who actually reads and isn't this idealized person that we imagine, would consume autoresponders and want to receive emails. And so CI is a better example. CI's autoresponder isn't fully built out yet, but there are a few emails. And the reason I say it's a better example is because it's very specific and focused. So it's dark sci-fi and horror, and it's creepy stuff, right? And so if you subscribe, if CI's back matter sent you to Sterling and Stone, like just join the list, and then you get a Lexi Maxwell bulletin or something like that, it just wouldn't make any sense. It would just be like, okay, and in theory you could ignore it and just say wait for the CI stuff, but that's not the way it works. So the reason we've gone back to imprint thinking is because that helps us to say, well, this is what these people want, and then we give them an option to branch off and say, well, do you want this too? Do you want the sampler platter? And then from there, from Sterling and Stone, do you want to know about CI? Or in this case, do you want to know about Realm and Sands? Do you want to know about Lexi? And so that thinking has extended to just about everything that we're doing. Sterling and Stone is the publisher, and we're the mothership. And so all of the imprints sort of say, hey, if you like this is our label, right? Like this is our. It has the same flavor, even if it's a different genre, but you can take it or leave it, and that's the reason we've done that.
Okay. E. Jacob says Space Shuttle is going to be huge someday. ... in Japan. And then
We
says
have
I'll
you
take
Space
it.
Shuttle too. Is all mapped out. It's electric boogaloo, and it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and they'll definitely anybody would take Japan. That's a great place to be popular. Uh, do you guys use just line editing or full-on developmental editing?
I would love to do developmental editing, but we are sort of each other's developmental editors, and line editing is what we hire out to a third party.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
think.
try not to have too many cooks in the kitchen because I mean the process we have is come to work for us, and I found when we have asked for input on some stuff, we get a lot of disparate advice, like 15 different things. For me anyway, it's like it's just too much. I just want to focus on the story that I want to tell, and if you want to read it, you do. If not, then I'm not catering to everybody.
I mostly agree with Dave there. I think that what.
Not all the way. What the hell, man?
Well, I think what makes it
Take what
different.
you can get, bitch.
I think what makes it different is that we are collaborators, so that just kind of changes it. I think developmental editing is a great idea, and I think if I was writing about myself, that is something
Oh
that
yeah.
I would want to hire out. But I think my developmental editor, when anything I'm doing with CI, is Dave, and I think I serve that purpose for him, and same at Roman Sands. It's just very collaborative.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
a
think.
developmental editor helps you point out things in your story that maybe don't make sense or could go better. And I know that Sean and I do that for each other all the time. Sean
Yeah,
will,
that's what our meetings are for,
Yeah,
really.
that's our
right,
job.
like
We
this
are
doesn't really make
developmental editors.
sense what we had planned. Do we want to do something different? That's developmental editing.
It would be good to have another line of defense, though, just in case we miss things. I mean, in the past we've missed minor things, which we might not have missed if we had a developmental editor.
Yeah, and I think that that's just
That's
that's part of
iteration.
the growth. Yeah, exactly. I think that at some point we'll have that person on staff who just reads everything. Like I love what Archer has done for the Beam. Um,
Do you want to say what that is briefly?
yeah, it's not exactly developmental editing, but
Archer
it's
is Archer Caldwell. He's
Archer
sort of our
Caldwell.
guy on the beam.
Yeah, and he's gonna read season 3 as soon as it's done, and just basically make sure that we didn't contradict ourselves with anything. And Archer's great because he's very left brain and right brain. So he, my favorite one. Well, there's
Oh,
a
I
few.
was just gonna say this if it's the same one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, my favorite catch is when Archer pointed out that we were not offering nearly a high enough bounty for an assassin to kill an executive. He said, no, they spend more than this on XYZ. Like if you're contracting for murder, it's got to be a much higher price tag.
Yeah,
Archer has had many executives murdered, so he knows.
he had
Right.
a very sound, reasonable, very articulate.
Like he was like, Exxon paid this much for this. Like clearly it wouldn't be a big deal.
Exxon had many executives murdered at a far cheaper cost. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that, Exxon.
I loved it so much, and I think having people like that on your team, that's really great. That's not exactly developmental editing, but it
But
does
your
help.
fans can help that too. I
Yeah,
mean,
Mark
Archer's doing
Dawson,
that kind of as a fan. Like he's just doing it because he
he
likes
loves
us
the
and he
world of
likes
the
our
beam.
stuff.
Yeah, he sent us an email about a month ago, and the subject line was "I miss the beam." Like, when do I have season 3 that I can go do this for? Mark Dawson, a lot of his readers will send him feedback on guns and things like that helps give his work a little more veracity. So I think that yeah, you want as many voices shaping your work, or at least sharpening your work, not necessarily shaping your work. For us, we shape each other's work, but I think if you can get a little bit of sharpening there, that's good too.
Ashley Shannon asks, have you ever thought about adding other authors to Sterling and Stone like you did with Lexi?
Yeah, absolutely, but
Way
Dave,
down the road.
yeah, Dave hates the idea, but someday, yeah, sure. I mean, we have people now. I think that kind of stuff always comes in-house, So, for example, Amy, Monica, Garrett, they all work very closely with us, and I mean, Garrett and I have talked about a few different projects that are possibilities in the future. I think it makes sense for our business. We are a story studio, But we have to focus on building first and making sure that all of our stuff is in place first.
Yeah, there's a whole thing about growing too fast, and you want to grow right, not fast. I think anyway. I know you guys are a little more entrepreneurial.
Yeah, but we still need to grow right. We still need to
Right.
grow right. There's actually an issue on the table with the indie fiction podcast. Now, this has kind of been settled separately, but I know there are a few times where Sean and I were wondering about a launch date, and we're like, we're coming right up on the launch date, and we could do this, but we can't make it work. And I was the one. There's plenty of times where Sean's been the reasonable voice, and I said, in this case, like, let's do it right. Like, it makes sense. I know we want to do it now, but we could do it better if we waited a few months.
Yeah, we spent our first couple of years, in the ready, fire, aim mode, and I think we're a little better than that now. I think that's a really great way when you're starting out. Yesterday's Gone, season 1, episode 1, it was ready, fire, aim, and I love it for that. Is it our best work? No, but it was our start. And
Yeah. And I know a lot of people see, us writing together, and they'd like to be involved in some kind of situation like that. If not with us, if other like-minded people. But for us, I think, at the moment, if we were to add people, beyond who we're already working with, it would not add value to those people at all. It would be something that we can't really, I don't know.
I agree.
You have to manage people.
So once we had like a full-time developmental editor, we have a full-time cover designer, like these things, and we have all of our systems in place, and we're not scrambling just to take care of ourselves. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, just as a very, very quick peek in behind the scenes of Sterling and Stone, we're in a very exciting but odd place right now where tasks to do and expenses are like we have to chase that. Like there's a shit ton of tasks to do, there's a shit ton of expenses, and it's all very exciting a year from now. You know what I mean? Like there's some big ass plans that are cranking forward, and we're just trying to make it go faster. But there's so much stuff that needs to get done. Like we are just so, and we're going to get to a point where it's like, okay, then we have just a crap ton of income, and we have a crap ton of support that we don't need to manage all these little details ourselves. But right now, it's not that way. So I don't want to grow any faster either, for sure.
Mikhail Barstow asks, what about the Smarter Artist list? I've tried to join it a couple times, but got no opt-in email.
Yeah, there's the Smarter Artist I'm actually building out right now, and there's currently nothing. Like it's basically you join it, and it's just a list, and we tell you about things like this. So it's basically a broadcast list, and that's just because it isn't because we don't want to build it out. It's just because we just haven't gotten to it yet. So that's on the plate now.
Yeah, and when that is built out, it's going to be phenomenal. It'll be because it's so much. Autoresponders are way easier to do for nonfiction than fiction, and this is the kind of thing that I mean when I say I'm really proud of the way that we've handled ourselves. I think the Sterling and Stone Smarter Artist list was money. Like we could have started that in January and immediately cash flowed that list because it's nonfiction. It's easier. You have things to sell. We have tools. It's a totally different thing.
You have problems, we can solve them.
But we spent a lot of time figuring out how to write a great autoresponder for fiction, because even though you're talking about most of that is for reviews and free books, and at the very most you're selling a $5 ticket here. It was still really important to us. We're a story studio. We sell fiction. That's our primary business. So to put that in front of the nonfiction list, I'm sure people listening to this probably that isn't as cool for you. You would have rather had the Smarter Artist list done than the Ramen Zan's list, because there's probably more in it for you. But I think that putting fiction first, not only is it good for our company and for our business and for our culture, but I think it's also it's great to lead by example in that way. And when we figure out how to write a good fiction autoresponder, I think that's something teachable that hopefully.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of people that write nonfiction only, and then they, write these books on how to make a bunch of money writing nonfiction and stuff, but it doesn't really apply to fiction in all the same ways. So, we are learning as we go, and we bring that experience back to SPP and eventually the Smarter Artist series.
I'm feeling like I want to offer a plug for Autoresponder Madness.
We need to put that in our sequence for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Ted Gordy asks, are you guys moving from serials to only series once your current ones are wrapped up? Love the show and fiction. Axis of Aaron and White Space are my favorites. Thank you.
Love that answer.
Yeah, the thing about serials is, we started off doing them, and Sean and I were writing 6 of them by the time we were done, and it was just too much to manage in both headspace and in meeting audience expectation, because you write. And Yesterday's Gone is our most popular serial, and we want to deliver to those readers. But then we have other serials like For Nevermore that's been I don't know, a couple of years since we've come out with one. We don't want to leave people hanging like that. Yeah, forever. So we don't want to leave people hanging. So we're closing boxes on our serials.
Put the 4 in For Nevermore.
We're closing boxes on serials because we don't want to leave people hanging for answers. We may have like one ongoing serial. I don't know yet, but we are going to do some more series books where there is an overarching thing, but the main thing is resolved within the book that you're reading, and I think that's really the way to go right now for us, because there is that there is a familiarity. You have these characters that you love, but you have a complete story, and nobody's left like, what the fuck at the end? I don't know what happened. Does he live or does he die? We don't want to leave people hanging for like a year to find out if somebody lived or died.
Yeah, I have a slightly different. Oh, go ahead, Sean.
Well, we'll probably say the same thing, but I love writing in the serialized way. I think it's the release that's the big difference. I don't ever see doing episodes again, although maybe not. If the right app came along or the right format that made it easy, then yeah, I could absolutely see
just
that.
as a quick example, Draft to Digital it solves the problem that these guys had with the 99-cent episodes. But that's not the whole thing. I'm just saying that's the sort of thing you learn. Like, oh, well, you can make 70% there or 60% instead of 35%.
Yeah, that would make a big difference. But I really like the structure and the format of serials. At Realm and Sands, we have Robot Proletariat and The Beam, which are both serialized. And they're really fun. Space Shuttle is serialized, and it's really fun.
That's the only one of the LOLs that's left.
Yeah. So I think it's a really great creative way of writing a story. The Beam isn't going anywhere. We're figuring probably 6 seasons for Robot Proletariat, but The Beam is like whatever. Like that could be 30 seasons. Who knows?
Yeah. The twist I was going to add on what Sean says is that to me it's because I think the question is strategic, right? Like what your strategy involving serials. And to me, it's not about strategy. It's about a method of storytelling. It's kind of like saying, do you want to write a romance or science fiction? That's the same thing to me as, do you want to write a standalone or do you want to write a serial? It's not about the release model or anything like that. It's just a different convention. Although I do agree with Dave that keeping up with a serial is tricky. And I can't imagine doing 6 because you have to keep track of a bunch of storylines, and they don't usually close. So you have this rise and then cliffhanger, rise and then slight fall and cliffhanger for multiple storylines, multiple POVs, and it just does get unwieldy. But I love the convention. I would never stop. I would never say serials are dead for me because I really enjoy writing them.
Me neither. I wouldn't add another one to the plate right now, simply because we have a lot. But once those boxes are closed, if Robot Proletariat was done, for example, I'd have no problem adding another Realm and Sand serial. Actually, it would need to be more than Robot Proletariat. It would need to be we have a lot of open boxes at Realm and Sand.
We would need to close some of the non-serial boxes.
But once some of those boxes are closed, I think it's a great way to tell a story.
So for these documents, do I just start from the beginning? Like how should I do this to make sure we're Should I pick and choose?
Yeah, I think we should pick and choose what was probably the most interesting. There was one down here that was specific for. Um,
Just after you ask it, erase it so it's not in the doc anymore.
Yeah, okay. I've just found your site and your YouTube channel. I've got a question I'd love to be inserted in your Ask Us Anything segment, whenever that is. My question, as a romance fiction author, would you think or have you heard any author seeing sales and or brand recognition by posting in Facebook groups? Yeah, absolutely. Romance authors totally hang out in Facebook. I think the key is how you're using Facebook. If you're just doing a drop by, hey, check me out, I have this new book, and you're not a part of that community, then you're going to be ignored at best and ostracized at worst. So, right.
Bring value.
Yeah, bring value. Like, it's not about Facebook community so much as community. Think about it. You don't want to be the dude at the party or the dudette at the party who's like just talking about themselves. Like, just don't do that. That guy eats alone. So just make sure that you're giving before you're asking. And if you're a part of a community and then you have a book and you mention it, then yeah, absolutely.
All right, so I'll ask one. It's from James. He said in Write, Publish, Repeat, the key to your business model is a high level of output with lots of series. Do you believe that series should be finished before they are published? What if I were to release several books from different series? At what point would you reduce the first volume in a series to free? Okay, so this is a part where I say what we do is not advice. So I can tell you what we do, and it's not necessarily what you should do. So, and when I say we, in this case I'm talking mainly about me and Sean. So Sean and Dave do follow a more although you guys did start with like 20 serials, so maybe not. But the nature of Realm and Sands is high output across multiple genres, which also means across multiple properties or serials or a series or something like that. So, but it is true across Realm and Sands and Collective Inkwell that we really only have 2 complete series. One is Yesterday's Gone, and the other is my own personal Fat Vampire series is finished. So we certainly don't believe that series need to be finished before they're published. But that said, scattershot does diffuse your efforts a lot. And I think that probably if you wanted...
It takes a lot longer to get traction, for sure.
And we're full-time authors. Like we're pushing out anywhere between, 10 to 30,000 words of publishable content per week. And so if you can't do that, if you're a lower volume writer, then yeah, that's kind of nuts to work on multiple series if it's going to take you, 6 months between releases or something like that, and you're working on several series.
Yeah, focus. Just focus. Get one series done under your belt. And we learned that the hard way. We did go scattershot, which I
don't think it's learning it the hard way. I think it's just that was.
I love like that's what we did. But in our year of optimization, we started out this year. Okay, let's be more strategic. What can we do that is going to take everything that we've learned? And Invasion was a pre-optimized title. That's what we call that. It was all the stuff that we were trying to do backwards, to optimize our titles. We just did that ahead of time with Invasion. Right now, Dave and I have a concept for a book that we're going to start that is kind of pre-optimized in that way. We're treating it as a series, and we're going to do a couple at a time. And I think that it's a more strategic way of thinking. But by no means are we going to finish the series before we publish the first one.
So let me ask the last part of this question again, or answer it, where he said, at what point would you reduce the first volume in a series to free? I believe conventional wisdom, which I've heard a few people say, is once you have 3 books, you can make the first book free. But I think that answer changes depending on who you are. If I were brand new and it was taking me a really long time and I just wanted to start, if I wanted to get going and I had 2 books, I would make the first book free. And I would offer the second book as a list bribe to join my list. You can get it for free if you join my list, which means if you can do the math there, that's effectively $0. Effectively, 0 plus 0 equals 0. But your goal is to build your list. So in that case, personally, this is my personal opinion, that's what I would do if I were starting out and I had 2 books. But on the flip side, and you'll hear this if you listen to the self-publishing podcast episode about free, like I said, Invasion is not free. It should be. It's the third. There are 3 books out, but it sells too well, and let's ride it out. Let's see what happens. So it all depends, but conventional wisdom says 3.
Dylan Perry asks, do you see yourselves writing more standalone novels after you finished off most of your ongoing series?
Yeah, we want to write a lot of standalone novels. We've talked about it at both Inkwell and Realm and Sands.
Well, we've done 3 at Inkwell now, right?
Yeah. So yeah, that's absolutely part of it. Unless you're a big name author, it is a lot harder. You know, the bookstores don't like to merchandise it as much. You know, it's harder for them to make money. Readers, it's funny. You'll see in reviews, I hate series books, but whatever. Series books sell really, really well. It's very.
Who the fuck is saying I hate series books? Come on, man.
Well, you see that in some
People that don't like series
people
books.
that don't like series books.
Oh, assholes.
They feel resentful, like oh, you're tricking me into being entertained. Arg.
Well, a lot of people want a story with a beginning and an ending right there, and I could get it.
Well, I get that too, but so I think it's. I was talking about this with Cindy earlier today, my wife. You know, because it's funny. You know, Axis, which I think is Realm and
Axis
Sands.
of Air, and that's Realm and Sands only standalone, I believe.
And I think it's our proudest moment. Both Johnny and I really love that book. It's just an awesome story. But I don't know, Invasion sells more in an hour than Axis does in a month.
Yeah,
And
that's pretty literally true.
yeah, and I'm not exaggerating. But I want to be able to write things like Invasion, you know, because I want to be able to afford to write things like Axis. And I think that it's about balancing. I think you write some books that are a little more for the money, and you write some that are for creativity. Now, having said that, you shouldn't write anything that's just for money. I love Invasion. I think it's a really cool series. But do I think is it's good as Axis? No, not at all. I think Axis is way better. But you know, Invasion is what it is, and it's really entertaining for what it is, and I really enjoyed the hell out of the project. And you know, I feel really happy and validated with how well it's doing.
And at Realm and Sands, we've committed to doing one of those a year. We're
Yeah.
buying the time for it.
Right. And when Johnny came down to Austin for our event in this last spring, that was one of the things we absolutely decided. Okay, we're going to write another literary novel. It's going to be standalone. It's going to have no funnel. It's not going to sell that well. It's going to take a lot of time to do, but damn it, we're going to do it. And I think that, you know, that kind of stuff is important. You can't.
Gazing the Navel, it's called.
It is. So
It's called Space Shuttle on Ice.
So I think that yeah, we will absolutely write some standalone novels. I think Dave and I have some pretty epic ideas that would fit really well in, you know, the old-fashioned Stephen King, just big giant, you know, book stops. But that's the kind of thing you do when you can afford to. I mean, we are full-time authors, so we really do have to worry about revenue like that. We're just not in a place right now where we can write whatever we want, and that is what we're working every day to accomplish.
Okay.
I'll get one. Yeah. How can you tell if a specific? This is from Jack. How can you tell if a specific story or story world is ripe for serial versus novel status? I imagine that anything can be serialized, can stand as a novel, though not necessarily the reverse would be true. I would actually make the opposite argument. I think it's just whatever tickles your fancy. I think that anything could be. If you're talking about characters, I mean, serials are really about characters, because you're watching them grow. So right now, the serial that I'm watching is Orange is the New Black. You know, I've been watching it every night. For, you know.
No, I'm sorry. I was noticing a question that I kind of want to ask next.
And you could have told that as I could see somebody making an argument for that as a novel. You know, this woman goes to prison and this is her experience in prison. But it's not. It's really about the characters in the prison, and each there's infinite stories. And if you think about your own life, it's filled with infinite stories. So you just find those stories to tell.
Day after endless day.
Right. And so I think that you have to gauge your excitement level, because if it's a serial, you know, you're going to have to stick with those characters and those storylines for a lot longer. So it's not, is the story world interesting enough? Is it, are you interested enough in the story world?
And for anybody who's read Axis, that couldn't have been anything but a standalone. Like some things just they just have to be like the story ends. You know, you
Yeah,
don't
but
go
that's not really a world. That's a story.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Like,
true. All right.
that's not even that couldn't get that question. But if you're thinking, man, should I write a serial or a novel out of this? The world is really cool. It's exciting. Is this a serial? Is this a series, a serial, or a standalone novel? What do you want it to be? What excites you most? Because I think that's a truism too. I think a lot of people, when you have writer's block, it's because you're not writing the correct thing. You're not writing what you're supposed to be writing, and so that's a really big CI truism. We really we try to focus on the projects that Dave's excited about because then they'll get done, and so I think that you want to ask yourself, what will motivate me to write this every day?
Let me ask this one because it did make me laugh, and now it's an open loop. And then I'll hand over the reins as far as questions. So this one's actually from Jack too, but I don't know if it's the same Jack. So and I just sort of chuckled because I saw this one coming. Yeah. So it's he says Sean prepared a nice program for using social media last year, but it seems that SNS is not proceeding with that plan. Did you find that social media did not give you a good return for the time and money spent, or was there some other reason? Actually, I was getting cold sweats when Sean outlined that original plan. Now, this is before we had a formal social media plan where we actually had help with it. And I remember my discussion, my comment was, I don't want to keep that up. Fuck that. So you can answer that question there, Sean.
Yeah, I know Tara's listening. Hi, Tara. Tara did our social media, and she did a really, really great job. She kind of implemented the plan.
This was one generation past what I think Jack is asking about. Just
Yeah.
FYI.
And so it was awesome. But as far as the ROI, no, there was very nothing tangible, nothing that we could measure. It's not like book sales all of a sudden exploded or anything like that. I think social media is a 20% activity for a working author who is, your priority should be creating stories, and absolutely you want to bond with your readers, but I tend to do that with the podcast and with email and with things like that, and social media is really easy for me to get lost in.
Well, I would argue that we are doing social media in the podcasts.
Right.
It's not, if we were to completely drop the podcast and stuff, then it would definitely be a different level of engagement altogether.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think it's just how many hours in the day, and social media. Right now, I try really, really hard to stay at 2 hours a day on email and fail almost every day. I don't know how I could possibly add social media into that. It's just very, very difficult. So ideally, yes, Sterling and Stone should have a strong social media program. We should have somebody who's in charge of that, and absolutely. But we're just not there. And now social media, for the most part, is a distraction. So
we also
we'll
hated it.
There. Yeah.
I'll just point that out. So if you have somebody managing it for you, like, okay, so here's when I didn't hate it, when Tara was doing it.
Right.
I didn't hate it. But
right.
if it's up to us, I'm not, like, I think I'm a reasonably social person, depending on how you define social, but I do not like social media. I don't. I like Twitter. That's it. If you want to engage with me, I love to engage on Twitter because it's 140 characters. It suits my ADD tendencies. It's easy. It's fast. But when you start, like, I know people love Facebook. I do not give a shit about Facebook. My wife loves Facebook. She's always flipping through on her phone every 2 seconds. She's totally addicted. I just don't care. And then she was like, when that whole Supreme Court thing went through on Friday with the gay marriage and stuff, like, she's like, everybody's yelling at each other on Facebook. And I'm like, that's why I don't like Facebook, because everybody's got a fucking opinion and they got to share it with the world. So the fact that I resented it.
How dare they?
And what's funny, well, because it's so important. And what's funny is when Tara did kind of take over, she just kept saying things like, "Now, Johnny, I promise this will be painless." And I was like, and I'm doing this the whole time. I have to describe it for anybody on audio. I'm just like making faces like, ooh, 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 because I so did not want to do it. And they were trying to talk me into, like, okay, you won't hate it too much. And that's just the wrong way to go into something social.
I do like Facebook, and I know I'm the most engaged out of all of us, but it is one of those situations where it is a time suck, and like I'll be engaged, and like maybe a few days in a row I'll remember, and I'll be like, I'll talk to people, and I enjoy every aspect of that because I like interacting with other authors and our readers. I like that aspect. But then it'll become like, well, then I'm putting something off, and I'm missing some deadlines or some shit, so I got to get back to work, and then I forget to go back to it. So it is definitely a time thing. I enjoy it though.
And what Dave's talking about, if you do enjoy it, I think it's great. As long as it doesn't become a time sink, I don't enjoy it. But if you do, like people who enjoy Facebook and really can talk to their fans that way, I think it's spectacular. But the question is, what are you doing? My favorite, by the way, I just want to share a quick Dave Facebook anecdote that I think is so funny, is every once in a while Dave will send us screenshots of something going on Facebook. And the way that Facebook works, of course, is when you're logged in, it has the comment where you can leave a comment and it has your avatar. So it's usually something that really pisses him off. So it'll be like this exchange where people are doing something douchey, and then there's Dave just waiting to weigh in. There he is. There's his avatar. What's he going to say?
Yeah, I do avoid most of those. I don't get down in the mud as much as I would if I weren't a writer.
I think social media is like anything that we talk about. It's know who you are, know what your why is, and know what you want for your business, and that's your equation. It's not should I or should I not do social media. If you love social media and if you would be on there anyway, then yes, you as an author should absolutely be on there.
As long as you're getting your writing done.
Yeah, if you wouldn't be on there, then don't force yourself to do it because you've heard it's a great way to sell books. That's just dumb.
Yeah, people can tell when you're not enjoying it.
Right.
We're at the we're at 2/3 for me personally. I can go another third, so we're doing good. We're doing good.
Okay. Yeah, I don't need to. I already did my the bedtime routine.
Oh, good on you, man.
So I'm with you.
Dave's already gotten his night's sleep. If you're following.
Yes. Jake Stetler says, been listening since episode 1. It was a rough start. Seriously, though, the journey has been amazing, inspiring. I'm a screenwriter wanting to write fiction, but I'm having trouble getting out of the present tense as in a script. Any suggestions? Maybe I should ask Garrett. By the way, love Contact and Yesterday's Gone.
Thank you. I'll take this because I'm actually I'm having the reverse right now because I'm writing our first screenplay, and I'm very much having to be conscious of the present tense, which is funny. I think you just have to read a lot of fiction. I think for me to get in that, I'm reading a lot of screenplays, and I think if I wanted to get into out of that voice, I would just start reading a lot of fiction. I think it's that simple. I mean, your brain is really malleable. We like to copy. If you, like for me, I'm every time I'm watching movies, I'm now watching them as somebody who wants to learn to write screenplays. So I'm noticing how long scenes are. I'm noticing, when they change from exterior to.
Your first screenplay was what, 5,820 pages?
Yeah, it's pushing 300 pages. So
and they're supposed to be, for reference, how long? 70?
They're supposed to be 120. Yeah.
Oh,
1 minute per.
Yeah,
1 page per minute.
Yeah.
Sean's making a 4-hour movie.
Right. No. I'm actually using Faden, the app, and it tells you how long the movie is, and it's 3.5 hours. So.
And it's not a 3.5-hour movie. It's not Lord of the Rings. Like it's very simple.
No, it's very simple. It should be about 100 minutes. So I have a lot of trimming to do, which is fine. I'd rather have scenes to cut than have to add them in. So as I'm going, as I'm adapting the novel to the script, I'm overdoing it, and with the full knowledge that I'll have a lot to cut. But that's okay. I'm learning. I'm teaching myself to do this. But anyway, I'm watching a lot of movies. I'm reading a lot of scripts, and I'm really paying attention. And I think that's as simple as the advice gets. Just read a lot of books and really pay attention, and stop reading scripts. If you're reading a lot of scripts, just stop.
Dave, have you ever written anything in present tense?
Yes.
Did you find any?
Wait. Wasn't Crash in present tense?
Crash is in present.
Okay,
tense.
that's what I thought. I thought it might have been.
Yeah, the book that actually helped me, because I hated reading present tense forever. Like, if I saw a book as present tense, I would say goodbye.
Yeah.
I just didn't. I just didn't like it. The book Every Day by David Levitan was the first book that I immediately got into, and I completely got over my hate of it. And then I decided, well, I guess I will write my book in present tense and give it a shot. And we'll probably be doing our next series in present tense.
Yeah, I think that there has to be a reason for present tense. And
It
Present
works
tense
really well with the young adult.
Yeah, it feels more immediate. Like, it just if I'm writing something present tense, it feels natural to be in present tense because it's almost a gonzo sort of feel. Like, this is
you
happening
connect
and this is
with
happening.
Yeah, I think the CI project that we're working on, that tense absolutely makes sense for the material. I think choosing a tense, your tense is a character, and so I think you really want to give it thought. And
Like if you read Fight Club, that's a book that I did like Every Day by David Levitan too. But Fight Club is a very, like, it's not young adult. It's not like, it's a lot of times it's teen girl books. A lot of times are present tense right now. But Fight Club is very much not a teen girl book.
It's not.
No, and it's something. There's something about
I
the
want to see the
immediacy.
teen girl version of that. The young adult version of Fight Club. That would be awesome.
It has a
Maybe
manic.
more vicious, I bet.
It has a manic feel to it. The other book that I think is present tense, I could be wrong about this, that I liked was American Psycho, I think is present tense. And so in Fight Club and American Psycho, the narrator is a little unreliable and a little unstable. And so
A little.
Yeah, exactly.
American Psycho, just a wee bit.
So if I want to convey that, then to me it's just, like Sean said, it's a character, it's a voice in the story, and it just makes more sense to write present tense.
Speaking of books I like, The Ice Cat says, Dave, I took your advice and read both Swan Song and The Girl with All the Gifts. They were awesome. Thanks. You're welcome.
I want Dave to reread Swan Song and tell me if the switching POVs in the middle of scenes constantly bugs him.
I did I did start rereading it recently, and yeah, I was annoyed. I didn't remember that, and I was annoyed by it. It's not how I would write it, but whatever.
Yeah,
You probably weren't really writing when you read it the first time.
I'm reading a J.D. Robb book right now, and she does that. Just all of a sudden, like, you're in one person's head, and then your head jumping into somebody else's. And
Yeah, it's not wrong. It's just different. That's like the
it's
omniscient
different.
narrator.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not used to it, and it feels wrong. I know it's not wrong, but it feels wrong, because
It's so wrong, it's got to be right.
yeah.
E. Jacob says, not a question so much. I've been reading the Invasion series, which is really good. You guys should consider making it into a graphic novel in the future.
Which? I didn't hear it.
Invasion series.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we'd love to do graphic novels.
Oh my God, my son is reading. He was reading like The Lightning Thief or something. Had graphic novels, and something else like recently, and I was like, oh man, like I so want something to be adapted into a graphic novel that would kick ass.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. A lot of our stuff, I think, would make great.
I think Unicorn Western would make a really good graphic novel.
Unicorn Western would make a great graphic novel. I think Yesterday's Gone would make a great graphic novel. The Beam, not so much.
Yeah, no, it's too slow. It's too thoughtful.
Right.
The word bubble should be like taking up the entire.
Right. No, it's true. It's very wordy. But I do think we have a lot of properties that would do well in that format, and it's just a matter of time. We'll absolutely get there. That's
Access to Fair and the graphic novel.
Tara says, can you please write a mystery thriller story? Not you, Dave. I hate when the dog dies.
Yeah, I just pitched.
I'd love to do that.
I've never killed a dog in a book. I don't know what you're talking
pitched a mystery thriller to Johnny this morning, as a matter of fact. So,
Wow, what's wrong with me that I don't remember that?
I don't know.
You saying it was this morning? That must have been when I was agitated about something.
It was at 6:13 a.m. Go check.
Oh, okay.
Tara also said the original social media plan was crazy. You guys do it with a podcast. I do it more with my website and email list. If you don't have those, social media is the lowest barrier for most people getting started.
And I agree with that.
Ted Gordy says, I think it's great that when it comes to Facebook, Dave is ironically the only one that doesn't hate it.
That is pretty funny.
Okay, you guys got any more questions? Somebody asked, how do you make a book permanently free?
You can actually just at this point, there used to be all these shenanigans where you put it on Smashwords, and you can actually
This
just
does not count as a pitch. This is one line in the middle of this long thing. Sorry, just saying.
wait, what? Oh,
Not a pitch.
oh,
I'm gonna paste it in the chat for Dave to see this quote pitch.
all right.
Oh, okay. Oh, the one Sean sent you? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I can get more specific if you want, but it was early. It was 6-ish. Um, now I lost my train of thought. Oh, anyway, just put it free anywhere else, and you can actually send an email to KDP support and tell them to ask them to please price match it. It's by no means a guarantee, but it's a good shot.
You do need to have it free somewhere else. I don't know if you mentioned that while I was mocking you. You can't just say make it free.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see. Here's one from Beth. Besides your own brief discussion of nonfiction in Write, Publish, Repeat, what other books and/or authors would you recommend regarding outlining for nonfiction? I think Steve Scott's stuff is great for writing nonfiction books, and he has some specific titles about that. You'll just have to Google them or go to Amazon and look him up. I think he's exclusive to Amazon at the time of this recording. But his stuff's great. But really, for me, when I'm outlining nonfiction, the way I do it is pretty simple. I figure there's probably going to be about 12 chapters in the book, and each chapter will have like 12 questions answered, and probably those will have like 6 little subheads. And I go to Amazon and I look at other nonfiction books in the same genre, and I look at 1-star reviews and I look at 5-star reviews, because those are people telling me what they loved and hated about the book, and that kind of tells me, what the open spots are, what the pain points are, what people are really desperate to know more about.
What questions are not resolved that you feel you could resolve?
You can learn a lot from 1-star reviews, because those are people who did not have their needs met.
There's about 4 questions here from Glenn that I'm not sure I know how to answer. Should we read
I'm going to guess that most people that leave a 1-star review, you can never meet their needs to begin with because they're miserable. But
that could be.
Not all. I'm sure there's some books that deserve it, but there are those people that just love.
Do you want me to ask these questions that I don't even know if we can answer? In the spirit of going through them.
Yeah. Ask Glenn's. We'll knock all those out at once.
Yeah, so we'll admit publicly that we don't know what these are. Okay, so these are for Glenn. Should the strategy be forming? I feel like there's preamble here, but he says, should your strategy, I guess, be forming phrase keywords that searchers will most likely enter, or using Amazon suggested single words to get into subcategories? Okay, so yes, the I don't know if I'm going to answer this the right way, but for searchability, you don't want single keywords. If you wrote mysteries and you use mystery as a keyword, like, good luck, right? Like, that's going to be more than useless, less than useless for you. But I think that what Glenn is asking here is, if you, I don't know where it is exactly, but if you Google like Amazon keyword categories, you'll find a KDP help page that describes how to get into certain subcategories with the use of keywords. So in other words, if you want to get into paranormal romance, I'm just making this up. Like, I think you check romance and then you use the keyword paranormal. Like, I don't know if that's right, but there are categories like that. And so I think what he's saying is, should you just go with, just in this case, paranormal as a keyword? Because then you're using up one of your 7. And quite by accident, I found out that you don't need to do that. So if you go and look at invasion, the way that you tell if something is in categories, you scroll all the way to the bottom, and it lists the full path of like Kindle Store, ebooks, blah, 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 and there's a block of them at the bottom. And invasion is in like 20 categories. And I did not use any single keywords like that. I did not say aliens or something. Like, there's no keyword aliens that I used. It's just that it's in, I might have used alien invasion in the keywords. And I think it's pulling from the description too. Like, they don't officially say that. But if those words are used in the description, I swear to God, it's pulling them out for category selection too. So I would not use single category keywords. I would just use whatever you think is most appropriate for a search term, and I think that it will match up. So number 2, will using Amazon's subcategory single words in a search string phrase work for both? I think that was what I just answered. Do you believe so?
Yeah.
Okay. 3, does inserting additional keyword metadata into the header of the Mobi file, that's the actual ebook file, offer additional entry into searches and categories? I do not know, but I can't imagine how it would. So there's the metadata for the actual ebook file. It's things like author name, book name. But the way I understand this,
on your device, maybe, but not.
right? If you sideload it, then that will show up. But the way Garrett explained this to me, and I found it to be true, is that if you because we're very sloppy, we reuse files, and so we'll routinely. Somebody was like, "Why is the name of your book file that I downloaded for the Beam Season 2 called Klingon Superhero or something?" Do you remember that? Like,
Yeah, I do. I totally do.
and it was because I don't think it was literally that, but it was whatever was in.
By
Like
the
we'd
way,
used
who
that
wants to write
file.
Klingon
Space shuttle.
We had used that file and then copied it, so the metadata was wrong. So when it outputted the file, the Mobi file thought that it was called something that it actually wasn't, and the author was probably wrong too. It was probably said the author was Lexi Maxwell when it wasn't.
I just realized that Space Shuttle has no Klingons.
Oh, we'll have to fix that.
That's an
So, well, you wouldn't call it Klingons. We've got Elf in there. I mean, geez, you just got to be creative.
Hey, Willie.
Right. So, but I think that Amazon or your booksellers platforms, they basically override that. Like it's just whatever. Like if you have Invasion as the title in the dashboard, I think it overwrites whatever metadata was output by the file. So I can't imagine that it would. And then because I've been talking a lot, I'll throw this one and one of you can answer it. The last one is number 4. How does the CreateSpace category chosen when one publishes the print version of a book synergize with the Kindle categories? Strategies here.
Hell if I know.
Yeah, I don't know. Garrett always handles that for us.
So I've noticed that they're different. They're different categories.
Yeah, I don't even know how it's laid out. So I'm totally suck at answering that question. I think we need.
I think that I think the CreateSpace ones are the BISAC categories, BISAC, I think, which is like the official ones, and Amazon's are not. So I don't know.
This one is from Sean. I want to put a short story a month up on my website. Each month the previous story would come down and a new one would go up. Then after a while I'd batch them together with a bonus story to purchase. Is there any way to put a kill switch in ebook files so the book deletes or locks at the end of the month, the way loans do? Force an update. As I understand it, the owner of the device has to agree to update files, or set it up as a periodical so people can read the story for the month it's free on their favorite device. Or if I will just have to have it on my website and people who don't like that can buy it later.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So to paraphrase, he wants to offer ebooks that expire.
That's a horrible idea.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty much what I said.
That, but yeah, I don't see why you would want to do that. Like all you're gonna do is piss off your readers.
Yeah.
And you need happy readers. Like.
Yeah, and if you look at people like Cory Doctorow and Scott Siegler when he was doing when he began like with the audiobooks, Podiobooks, whatever, the whole thing there was they were giving away stuff for free, and people like them because of it. If you're giving, it's hard enough to get readers to begin with, but if you're going to give stuff away and then say, well, you can only read it under these specific conditions, and then the book will delete itself from your file or from your ebook reader, you're just pissing people off. It's too complex. If you're giving it away, give it away and hope that they like it enough to maybe support you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that. I'm sure you're not an asshole, but if you don't want readers to think you're an asshole, and if their book all of a sudden, like maybe they start reading it and they get halfway through it, and life happens and they don't finish, and or
Yeah.
they read the first page and think, you know what, I like this. But they're in an airport and they want to read it, a month later, and they go.
Sorry.
Yeah,
you didn't read it quick enough, you loser.
I'm telling you, the response isn't going to be, well, I need to go find that and buy it. It's going to be really...
Right.
It's going to be an angry email. Hey, where the hell did my book go? And then you're going to have to send them a new one or something to make up for your asshole judgment. Not really, but
Yeah, so you
You're
do
gonna piss
wanna-
people off, and you're gonna have to do more to make up for pissing them off than you would otherwise just giving it away.
I totally agree. Just take care of your readers and know that it's hard to make money on short stories anyway. Like the only real way to do that is a collection, and but
And some people just don't like short stories.
Well,
I
Hugh
avoided
Howey's
them for a
doing
long
well with
time.
short stories on
short stories
Kindle
are
Unlimited.
fantastic. Like I love short stories. I love them as a writer. I love them as a reader. I think they're great. But I don't think you can lock people out of them.
And Amarin Gray says Dr. L still gives away his books for free on his webpage.
Yeah.
Tara says, best quote from the show, maybe you are not an asshole, but. That should be the episode title.
I listened to the audiobook version of Write, Publish, Repeat. The narrator seemed to be completely different in tone from your podcast. Was this intentional on your part, or was it a decision of the publisher? Well, we are the publisher, and we just thought, well, Johnny wanted to sound fancy, and
Why not have a British guy do it?
yeah, like it's fun. Like it sounds. Yes, it is very different, but there was no way that Johnny was going to read the whole thing, and so we had to get a professional.
It would be angry if Johnny read it. He'd be like getting through it.
Plus, it's funny hearing people with British accents say "fuck." Let's
Right.
face it.
No, it is. Simon's a friend of the show, and
So do you laugh when you're watching British pornography?
Do you ever see British pornography on Family Guy? Did you see when they did British porn?
No.
Almost. Almost. Oh, there we go.
but I do think we all love our UK accents. All three of us guys, really appreciate a fine English accent, and it seemed like that would be a cool
And
way
Irish
to,
and Scottish.
yeah.
Just not that crazy Australian by way of New Zealand one that Carl has.
Although-
we thought that'd be a cool way to do the book.
I'm currently listening to Sally Hogshead's book Fascinate, and she read her own audiobook. And I've heard, I've always preferred when authors read their own nonfiction audiobooks. So I was actually trying to just feel Sean out on the idea of maybe I would read the next one if I don't have to do all the production, if I can just read into a mic. But I don't know if we're going to do that. I mean, it's hard to find the time, and it wouldn't be as pro. I had 10 minutes, and then I'm dropping the mic and I'm getting the fuck out. And you know what happens with the hangout after 10 minutes.
We're pretty good here though.
I think Johnny should drink at least one White Russian every 10 minutes. I want to see how the show progresses.
That's pretty awesome. Okay, perhaps beyond the scope of self-publishing, or self-publishing fiction. But what are your thoughts about self-publishing public interactions from social media, Twitter, Google+, blog comments, etc., into say a nonfiction book? Any legal, ethical considerations one should consider?
Yes.
I'm going to send this to Dave.
All of them. All of the legal, ethical considerations. All of them apply to that.
Yeah, I'm depending on the platform. Somebody owns the copyright to comments, like YouTube comments and stuff. I don't know. I don't know for sure, but my guess is that YouTube and the person that wrote the comment basically own the copyright of the comment on YouTube comments. And I think that's a lot of it's similar in other places. Even if YouTube or say Yahoo or whatever, wherever you're getting these comments from, even if they don't own the copyright, the person that originally wrote this stuff, I think technically is they wrote it on the internet. And could they sue you? I don't know. They might have some recourse. Because I wanted to do for a long time. I wanted to do like a humorous blog just making fun of the stupid shit I see on Yahoo comments, and I was a bit nervous legally to do that. I've seen some people have done stuff similar though, and somehow they get away with it, so I don't know. I definitely wouldn't put in a book though.
You just got to think, it's the juice worth the squeeze? Like, what are you trying to accomplish? It seems like
you must be able to do it though, because I know I've seen in I don't know if this is right, but I feel like in a book like Bold, he may have cited case studies and said then a user said this, and it's like one specific thing to make a point. But I feel like I'm not a lawyer, I don't know, but I feel like you must be able to at least cite some of it, but maybe in just very small quantities. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you're reproducing, I don't know the context of this question, but if you're reproducing like an entire thread or conversation or something, you
Right.
might have some issues there.
Yeah,
I could be completely wrong, but I don't know. Ask somebody that really knows.
Feels like it might
Yeah.
be a matter of scale. Like
We
one
don't
thing
really
would be
know,
bigger.
but if it was, okay, so I agree completely. If what Johnny's saying, you're basically making a point and using that as like, a piece of data, that's one thing. But if you're doing, shit my dad says, but it's, shit I found on Twitter, right? And you're just taking things that people said, I think that's a little more dubious. But
Like I've wondered how the Grumpy Cat book, or like how do they get, Icon has cheeseburger. There's a book at Barnes and Noble.
Okay,
And
Well,
stuff.
that person made the book.
right,
But did they? I mean, that's like a lot of internet memes. One person didn't make all of those cat photos.
But
Well, the Grumpy Cat one, yes.
once it lands on the site, there is a disclaimer on the site. Like, once you post it here, we own the content. But that's different. So if the person who owns I Can Has Cheeseburger is publishing that book, then they own the content because it's been posted on their site.
Do you remember how we said at the beginning that your mic was good? It's no longer. I don't know what happened there.
And I would think that in the case of I Can Has Cheeseburger, if you're using a photo from somebody else's cat, it's not yours or whatever, there may be a situation where that person could have recourse to come after you because you took their photo without permission. That would be a very gray area that I would not want to go into.
Well, now wasn't there something with, I want to say somebody like Adam Sandler? Do you remember this? Or it was somebody like that, or maybe Jimmy Kimmel, and he used a photo in a book that it was of him, but a friend had taken it, and the guy was apparently kind of a contentious asshole and like sued him for a bunch of money.
There's been a few stories like that.
Yeah.
We have a question on YouTube. Nick asks, question, if you were a quality fantasy artist and wanted to write a fantasy novel, do you think it could help with sales? If so, how would you take advantage of that skill in your marketing? If I were an artist that was good and could create an audience from my art alone, I would blog about it. I would blog about your art. I would post samples of your art. I would blog, looking at other people's art, feature other artists and stuff. Develop something that people can like other than just like, hey, look at me. You want to develop content along the same lines. You want to feature other people that are similar. And then, assuming that you can write a book that's equally good, then you can promote it lightly on the site, I would say, not too much.
Pro tip, people like boobies.
Jeez. That's how Grumpy Cat got so big. Boobies.
All right, so we got one more here. You want to do one more?
Wow, we're really doing that good? All right, solid.
Yeah,
or are you just saying because we have 5 minutes? Because I agree with that theory.
Yeah, because we have no. We have
got a lot more questions.
Yeah,
okay. Well, we're doing these regularly now. It's
actually,
good.
I want to say before I go back to the spreadsheet, I'd rather hit all the YouTubes. Dave, are there any more on YouTube?
Ted Gordy says, don't get Dave started on Adam Sandler. Just in comments, I didn't see any other questions. Kind of hard. Just go ahead with the one you got.
Okay, let me see. If I'm doing a self-help kind of book series, can I attempt to publish many times with different titles and covers, but with a large portion of similar content in each? Does Amazon check the contents? All right.
Why would you do that?
Yeah. Okay. So we recorded
That's like the scammiest shit ever, man.
Yeah, we recorded. Well, I think there's a way to do this. We recorded an episode of SPP today.
This is actually the example I was going to give. Go ahead.
With Hal Elrod, who wrote The Miracle Morning, and he's doing a version of that book that's like the Miracle Morning for realtors, the Miracle Morning for doctors,
writers,
right? And that makes sense. You are going to take most of the bulk of that content and repurpose it in that way, and that makes sense in that context. But I can't think of a lot of contexts where that would work.
And you got to make it really clear that a lot of this stuff was already in another book that person might, especially if it's the same people.
So I have an example on the other end. I bought a book this year that was, I don't know, it was like How to Make a Killing on Romance or something.
Yeah, I remember that one too.
Right, and I paid like, I don't know, $5.99 for it or whatever. and I open it up and I read it, and it's literally the same book that was How to Make a Killing on Fiction. And there was maybe 2 sentences different in the entire book. There wasn't even a specific romance section.
That's some bullshit right there.
Yeah, right. And so I already owned the other book, and I was pretty annoyed about that. And it just made me think the guy was a dick. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, be clear in your product description. I just copy and pasted my book. Although I I should have read the 1-star reviews because they all pointed that out. So, like, your reader reputation or your author reputation is just too important to do something so stupid. But again, I don't know that it's stupid. It may be awesome, and it may be like what Hal is doing is actually pretty smart. He's niching his content because not everybody cares about having a miracle morning, but maybe all dentists do. So that's a pretty smart thing to do, and I like that business model. But you just have to know what you're doing and very clearly communicate it to your reader.
We have a correction to the comment you made there, Sean. Well, first, Dylan Perry said best quote of the night, pro tip, people like boobies. Ms. Astrostone says pro tip, edit. Heterosexual men like boobies, heterosexual women like six-packs and bulges. So get it straight.
That's true.
James Goy Jr. says, I've been planning on taking a lot of my own online comments and using them in books. Are you guys saying that the copyright stuff I write and post online may be owned by the websites? You'd have to check with the websites you're posting at. I don't know. I've seen like terms of services, though, where websites have said, we own the right, to republish it however the hell we want to.
I think there's more latitude. If it's something you said, I think there's more latitude there than if you're scraping the internet for, things that are clever that didn't come from you. I think it's a little different. Yeah. But again, check what terms of service.
Okay. Well,
that was tidy. So we'll do another one in about a month for those of you who are live. And we'll do one in about a month even for those of you who aren't live, but you won't get it. That's the way these things work. And I think that's about it. So
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, this was really fun. See you next month.
See you, everybody.